The movie begins as students resume school after their spring break. Zach meets with his friends Dean and Preston as other students. He sees Taylor, who gives him a cold reaction when he reaches to kiss her. After which she breaks the news of their breakup to him. She tells him about her fascinating encounter with her new boyfriend in Florida and her new tattoo. Meanwhile, Lainey, a nerdy girl, is given a fair review by her teacher, Ms. Rousseau, during her art class, after which Misty and Savannah taunt her about her painting, telling her to think about killing herself. The school DJ announces his condolences to Zach on his breakup, which gets him upset, and his friends urge him to do something to protect his legacy as the class president. Zach gets even more upset as he sees Taylor and Brock making out. He then decides to replace her. After a long argument with his friends about Taylor being irreplaceable, Dean proposes a bet to Zach. He has to transform any girl handpicked by him to become the prom queen and replace Taylor within 6 weeks. As they search for a target, they see Lainey, who trips and spills her stuff over the place. Dean chooses her to be Zach's bet. Zach refuses as he explains to them that he could deal with other girls, but not the quirky and inaccessible Lainey. However, he goes to Lainey to start a conversation, but she ignores him and walks away with her brother, Simon, leaving Zach embarrassed. Zach watches Brock on the Real World show he features in as he talks to his sister, Mackenzie Seiler, about Lainey. Mackenzie then tells him to get to know Lainey, and not long after, their parents arrive. Zach's dad asks him about his university applications, and when he talks about calling his alumni from his university, Zach stops. Turns Zach's received lots of applications from different colleges, including Dartmouth, his dad's previous university, but he just isn't ready to make a decision. Zach pays a visit to Lainey at her part-time job, where she asks him to stop stalking her. Zach uses art as an excuse to get to know her, after which Jesse, Lainey's friend, forfeits his art tickets for Zach. Lainey gets upset with Jesse. She then invites Zach after Jesse urges her to try thinking about why the hottest guy in school would be stalking her. She also declines Zach's offer to go out for dinner. Later in the evening, Zach attends the art performance at the Jesters. After Lainey's performance, Zach is invited to give the audience a performance as a new member. A tense and confused Zach pulls a little stunt with a ball at the theater. Zach is thrilled at what he did at the theater as he talks to Lainey about it on their way home. While they talk, Lainey gets upset with him and walks away when he talks about her eyes being beautiful when he asks her if she doesn't wear contacts. On the other hand, Taylor and Brock aren't having such a glamorous time with their romance. Brock now seems to care about his Real World show thing and image other than his romance with Taylor. The next day, Zach goes over to Lainey's and invites her to the beach. She hesitates though, but joins him after he talks about staying over to play with Simon. While at the beach, Zach's crew joins them, and he urges her to get used to them since they'll become friends. While Lainey gets along with Katie and Chandler, Preston invites her to join the boys' play ball after both girls had declined. Lainey has fun with Zach's crew at the beach. Dean then invites her to party with them at Preston's. However, Lainey gives Zach excuses about having to clean her home after the rest had left. While Lainey talks to Jesse about the party over the phone, Zach shows up with cleaners to help her out with the chores and his sister to help her get dressed. Simon keeps Zach company, allowing the girl to cook up a new Lainey. Zach and Simon are dumbfounded by Lainey's new look, only that she trips and cuts their moment short. Zach and Lainey arrive at the party that never ends. Preston welcomes them while all eyes are on Lainey. Later on, Katie takes Lainey to join the girls. Dean teases Zach about how he looked at Lainey, but he breaks to Dean that it's just a bet and nothing more. Not quite long, Taylor and her boyfriend arrive at the party. Meanwhile, Lainey goes to use the bathroom where she sees Misty vomiting. She tries to help her out, but Misty taunts instead. However, Lainey locks the door and gives her a taste of her own medicine. Meanwhile, Brock embarrasses Taylor as he begins dancing and irritating everyone at the party. Misty gets her share of embarrassment as she wakes around with the clown painting Lainey had made on her face. Taylor embarrasses and talks down on Lainey at the party, after which she runs away, and Zach goes after her. After she tells Zach that she always hated associating with people like Taylor, Zach then tells her that to open up she has to let in both the good and the bad, and they leave afterward. The next day at school, Lainey's nominated for prom queen, and she also gets herself a few supporters while still clueless about everything. Katie and the girls congratulate Lainey on her nomination, but they are interrupted when Taylor pages them. Taylor shares her breakup news with her friends as she cries her eyes out. While they console her, Chandler tells her that she's better off without Brock. Taylor's surprised seeing the whole Lainey for prom queen thing, where asks her friends about what she missed. Zach gets distracted during their soccer game and his friends are surprised. He gets into a fight with Dean when talks about messing with Lainey, and Dean then tells him that he'll lose the contest. The students are all busy with the whole prom thing as Jesse takes care of Lainey's campaign while Taylor and her friends do theirs. Zach goes over to Lainey's and joins her as she paints for her project with a picture of her mom. They talk about her mom's death, where Zach then tells her to quit shutting everyone out, leading to her asking about his university choice and decision. Zach then talks about how he feels his dad wants to impose his dream on him by making him attend the same college he'd attended. As they talk, Zach gets closer to kiss her but stops himself and rushes out as she asks if he isn't pranking her. Zach starts having weird dreams about Lainey. The election between the two prom queen nominees is around the corner. Meanwhile, a group of students raps a song, "She's All That," about it as they support Lainey. Dean gets irritated by the scene and walks away. At the school cafeteria, Lainey seems worried as she asks Jesse if she's kissable. He sees Lainey, who stares at him, but he begins to avoid her, which makes her even more worried. Zach now has feelings for Lainey. Meanwhile, Dean meets with Lainey at her part-time job and asks her out for prom. When Lainey declines, he then tells her that Zach doesn't really care about her and that he still has a thing for Taylor. Zach's dad finds out about the university application letters he hid and confronts him about it. Zach then talks to his dad about how he doesn't want to live a future he imposes on him. However, his dad apologizes to him and lets him know that he's always had a wrong impression about him. At school, Taylor approaches Zach to talk about their plans for prom. When Zach tells her off, she then gestures to him, letting him see Dean with Lainey. Zach confronts Dean as he gets pissed on hearing that he asked Lainey out for prom. While they argue, Dean then brings the betting issue up, making Zach look like the bad guy. Lainey's surprised to hear that she was just a bet. She runs out after Taylor taunts her, and Dean goes after her as he laughs at Zach. On prom night, Zach tries getting through to Lainey as he explains that he'd made the bet before he knew her. But Simon yells at him over the phone, telling him to stop calling. Later on, Lainey's dad goes downstairs to talk to Lainey as she paints. He tells her to attend the prom and leave the house responsibilities for him to handle. She tells him about not having a prom date, but her dad informs her that she has a date waiting for her. As she leaves to see who's waiting, her dad urges her to have fun for herself at the prom. On getting to the living room, she sees Dean all dressed up and waiting for her. She'd expected to see Zach though. However, she leaves with him, and Zach leaves with his sister as she tells him not to worry, that Lainey will attend the prom. Zach and Mackenzie arrive at the prom, where he sees Lainey dancing with Dean. He tries approaching Lainey, but Taylor interrupts him, telling him to dance with her and that she's forgiven him. She'd waited for Zach to pick her up for the prom, but he never came. Everyone's grooving at the party as the campus DJ does his thing. Jesse and Mackenzie meet and introduce themselves as the DJ plays their favorite song. Dean excuses Lainey to use the bathroom, where Jesse overhears him talking about a bet he'd placed to sleep with Lane after the party. While Lainey waits, the art teacher approaches and congratulates her on having made the best painting in their project, the painting of her mother. She also tells her not to let go of whoever was responsible for opening her up, and she then stresses at Zach, whose eyes were also on her. Zach and Taylor are crowned the prom queen and king, and Dean leaves with Lainey. Zach has failed the bet since Lainey didn't win the prom queen election. Meanwhile, Jesse informs Mackenzie about Dean's plans, and they head to inform Zach about it. They interrupt Zach while giving his speech and inform him about Dean's plans. He then hurries to save Lainey, leaving his prom behind. However, Lainey had defended herself by using a horn blast on his ear. On getting home, Lainey sees Zach, who'd been waiting for her, and she tells him about Dean. The duo has a heartfelt moment together as Zach apologizes to her while they dance. They also talk about their college plans, after which Lainey kisses him. The movie ends on their graduation day as Zach fulfills his losing term on the bet by going unclad to the ceremony. Dean, on the other hand, has lost his hearing partially as a result of what Lainey did to him.